You are one who hypes.
Yes.
You are he who hypes. And there are many reasons to be excited about this game. I mean, you've been talking about this forever because it's Mikami and the remake is so great, the original is so great, RE4 is so great. And so he's kind of, going back to roots is like the thing you'll hear over and over and over again in the review for this game. So you come in with a sizable score for this game, and we were a little bit skeptical. I still have not played through the entire game. I put about 4 hours into it, and I'm loving everything that's happening so far. It's not a scary game, I would say. Like, I haven't really jumped out of my seat. I did freak out one time when I was just watching your footage because I cut the review. So you wrote it and I edited our review. But it is unsettling. I do like the nightmare sequences. I think is kind of what I wasn't expecting. Going back to this hub area where this nurse is at, and each time you do that, it's not just like, oh, okay, I'll go into a safe zone and drop some items and stuff. It's kind of like, what if you took Resident Evil, and every time you went back to one of those safe houses, they screwed with you a little bit, or they popped you into a new room, or you picked up, there was suddenly a note or a headline in there that you could read and get a little bit more of the story. Yeah, it's like a bad dream. The whole thing, they keep throwing you into these crazy situations.
The whole vibe gives me Resident Evil 1 and 4 combined. It's like if you take the best parts of both. It's the over-the-shoulder, a little bit more action like Resident Evil 4, but less action than Resident Evil 4, not nearly as much, in my opinion, and kind of just that atmosphere and tone of Resident Evil 1. So it just gave me this old-school vibe the entire way through, and just having to manage your resources. You go back, you play Resident Evil 4, like Resident Evil 1 through 3 will always be my favorite. I will always prefer those over 4. You go back, you play 4, and I don't know if people remember, but you can always shoot the guys in the head, and they stumble around.
Right.
Then you go up to them, you melee attack them, kick them down, and then knife them on the ground.
Right.
So halfway through the game, you just exploit that, and you have so much ammunition in Resident Evil 4, and you never have a lot of ammunition in Evil Within, which is what I loved. The entire game, from beginning to end, and it's pretty long, it took me 15 hours. That entire 15 hours, I was consciously thinking about supplies, about survival, managing my resources.
Well, like the invisible Zoidberg guys. I'm finally up to the point now that I first saw the footage of you playing. I think it was around the end of chapter 4 going into chapter 5. And so I kind of know when I'll hear a noise or something, I'm just like, I'm going to keep going. And that actually is I don't like that feeling. I always want to kill stuff. I want to get all the items. I want to clear an area to make sure I'm getting everything. And there's some times where I'll just skip a door, skip a hallway, because I'm like, I don't want to deal with that stuff, going on in there.
The way they bait you with the gel, the brain gel, because it's so valuable, and they just put it in these dangerous places, and you're just like, I see it, I should get it, but there's monsters coming in from the side.
I realized I wasn't meleeing stuff until 2 hours in.
Yeah.
When I finally hit, because you start out with no weapons, and so just hitting the right triggers melee. And then when you get a gun, you're automatically, you're always holding a gun. You can never go back to an unarmed. And so melee becomes the Y button, and I just didn't register that. So there were all sorts of boxes that I probably walked by, and all that brain gel.
Yeah.
But there's New Game Plus, which is great, which RE4 had,
Yeah.
which is why I played RE4 3 times in a row, because I'm like, I want to level up all of these weapons.
There is one thing I did want to ask you. It's, a lot of people are saying it's not that scary, and survival horror needs to be scary, but then, people say Resident Evil 4, is it survival horror, is it action horror? Where do you draw the line?
I think horror needs to be scary. I think survival horror needs to be tense. And I think there's some parts that are fun and actiony, and that's fine as long as I'm enjoying myself and as long as I'm entertained. I don't think, because you do have weapons and because you actually, you can go into an encounter with 15 shotgun rounds. There's nothing really scary about that. But it is empowering. It is tense. You are always looking around your shoulder, these things will creep up on you. There's definitely some really good sound design in the game. So there's definitely some parts that are just loud just because of how, are scary just because of how loud and abrasive they are. I found a lot of just the natural enemy designs were really creepy. Yeah. There's the big thing we saw in one of the first trailers, the spider 8-legged crazy, Ringu, crazy haired
That thing is gonna scare the crap out of me.
And even just skimming through the footage, editing the review, creeped me out looking at it. So I like the style in the game. One thing that I mentioned when I streamed it the other day, and you're gonna be streaming it soon,
tomorrow,
was well, depending on when this goes
Oh,
up,
yeah.
was I like that they didn't establish the story like they did in RE4. The most interesting thing I felt about the story in RE4 was the credits. I finally beat the whole game, and then they do this montage kind of showing you this peaceful village, and there's this old guy sitting out in front of his cabin, you know, like playing guitar, and then he gets ejected with this nasty stuff. This cult comes in and just like turns everybody into zombies, pretty much. And so
Las
I
plagas.
like it's obviously there's some kind of testing going on. Obviously, someone's behind it. Obviously, you have this like shrouded character with like metal on his face, and early on, one of the characters recognizes him and names him, and so he keeps coming up. But even like one of the characters that you're walking around with says, "I have no idea what's going on." Actually, calls you out and says, "You could be a figment of my imagination. I don't know." And so, because you keep like falling, you know, like getting knocked out and waking up in these strange places, I kind of like that you're just constantly trudging through. I would be much more frustrated, or I'd be much less into it, or feel much more superficial to me if there were like tons of cutscenes, and like really early on you got way into the backstory of this guy. Even Hunnigan, like from RE4, making a comparison to RE4, I like that I don't have someone like her constantly chirping in my ear telling me what to do.
That was the thing. The pacing is so great, and that I feel like that would just bog it down.
Yeah.
And the unknown propelled me to just keep going. I kept wanting to know. It's like, I want to uncover this. I want to uncover this. The end, maybe, you know, depending on your interpretation, you might think it falls flat. You might not. I didn't really want to get into that in the review for spoilers. But then there is going to be DLC that, you know, is a 2-part story-driven. So who knows if that'll open up more answers or not.
And that's probably one thing that would, if I was reviewing the game, that would bump the score down for me, is like, I'm into this environment. I want to know more. I want to keep traveling. I want to keep exploring and discovering
about the
new
journey.
areas. I could care less about this guy. I mean, Sebastian, I don't really care about. I don't care about his partners. I like that you keep getting reintroduced to them, but like, I thought one of them was going to die really quickly. I thought they would be terrible in combat, but they do actually cover for you sometimes. Like, I've had some times where a guy would come up on me with a grenade and he'd get hit from my partner and would drop the grenade and blow up. So like,
when I froze those guys, God, that was
there was
the
one
best
shot
moment.
in the review, where you froze a guy and he like smacked 3 guys and shattered them. One situation I actually just played was, it happens early on in the game, is your female partner is trapped in this prison, and all these guys come out of the woodwork, you know, kind of like the village scene right at the beginning of RE4. And so there's room to run around, there's ammo on the ground, like you can get through it, like, but you have to be smart about what you use and when. And I had to do it like 7 or 8 times, and I never got frustrated. And so I think that was a good, again, it's not something where I'm seeking these scares. I just want to have fun playing this game. I want to have fun with the combat. I want to have fun switching between the weapons. And when I would die and have to go back into it, I wouldn't be thinking, oh God, here I go. I'm going to fail on this again. It's like, okay, how do I want to do this differently? How can I drop a grenade, or how can I, if I know where they're coming from and they're all going to run down the stairs, let me just drop a grenade or shoot a harpoon.
A couple huge things I want to say is, one, those Resident Evil 4 style action scenes are so spaced out in the game that when they happen, you know, it's you're welcoming the action. It's rare enough to be welcomed. And the checkpoint system, action or stealth, when you're stealthing through and you go through a huge 10 or 15 minute segment and you die and you have to go back to that checkpoint, that forces you to think and concentrate the entire time you're playing. You're never zoning out. You have to go back and you have to replay the entire thing, and you have to think. It's like, okay, what can I do differently? Where can I go in? Should I use my ammo that I have a limited amount of on this person or try to knife this guy? What do I do? And again, that keeps up the entire 15-hour game. So
apparently you can stealth kill. I've never done it. I keep bumping into bad guys.
That's another thing too. I love how unforgiving the stealth is. It's like, I'm so sick of games like Mordor. There would be 5 orcs walking in a path, and you could go up behind each one. They're orcs. But I mean, even a game designed around stealth like Thief, you could be, like, you're the bad guy facing that way, and I could be right here, come behind you. Okay? And I feel like in Evil Within, if you're right on their side, or if you're not directly behind them, and you go in for that knife fast enough, you're done.
Well, the Zoidberg guys are really, really hard to see, and it's cool. You kind of want to. They have rooms full of, like, you know, tables and chairs and beds, and so it's kind of fun moving them into an area where there's things they can knock over, and that's how you can see them. And so the physics are fun in the game. It gets a little glitchy sometimes just with animations and stuff, but I'm having fun playing this game. You know, like I think one of the things that I wanted to see fulfilled was the actual gameplay and having it feel good, having it be the right pace, having the aiming be on, having it be fun, that all the stuff that you can level up, you know, and going in and being like, okay,
So
do I
deep.
want to focus on guns? Do I want to focus on health? Do I want to focus on these bolts? Or, you know, when do you actually want, like I had one thing where I got to a level up area and then left and then like got a couple extra things and went back, you know, like leveled up again before I, you know, kept on going.
It's like you get to that huge village area and it's like, okay, do I just progress through and get past all these guys? It's like, no, I need supplies. There's probably so many supplies here. I'm just going to try to stealth kill a guy and search the room because they're so valuable.
And took you 15 hours, taking me 4 to cover a lot of ground and see a lot of fun stuff. So there's a lot there. That's part of why everybody's saying this is a good game. It's not repetitive. You're constantly wondering, like, what's the next thing I'm going to see?
And just for all the people that were frustrated like me with Resident Evil 5 and 6, I mean, even 4 was kind of the beginning of the end. There is a lot less action in this game than Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6, in my opinion. I thought it was a lot less than 4.
Oh, okay.
So a lot more stealth, survival. It is not action evil, as that name has been dubbed. So.
The lighting's really great. Whenever you turn your lantern on and go into creepy places, like I'll get spooked because I'll think something's sneaking up on me and it's just me, it's just my shadow.
Yeah.
And tons, I don't know if I'm going overboard with this, but tons of Resident Evil 4 references. Yeah, like not just like, oh, that weapon seems familiar and stuff, but like direct references to the games he's worked on before. So. And
then lastly, one last thing, there was a lot of controversy out there from the letterboxing.
Right.
What is your take?
I'm cool with it. You know, we were talking about it this morning, and then I went to put in like a half an hour before we talked about it. Totally forgot about it. You know, it wasn't something where I'm like, oh yeah, let me really pay attention to the letterbox. I mean, obviously you're playing on a smaller television. It's going to frustrate you. RE4 did the same thing, right? Didn't RE4 have bars? It was widescreen though, isn't it?
It didn't have the bars.
RE4 did not have bars. Yeah. I'm tripping.
Dragon's Dogma had the bars, but.
Yeah, I think it's a very specific style choice. It's a little weird because it's cinematic and you are playing a video game. It's not something, if I was making this game, if I could choose to have it or not have it, I would rather not have it so I can get a little more screen space.
Okay.
I can't say that definitively because it'd be interesting to see like both versions, or like if it came out on the PC or something, if dudes like zoomed in or changed it.
I think there's already like a hack to take it off.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, it's not something where I thought, you know, those doggone bars, it's just not, you know, messing up my gaming experience. Yeah, it never really bothered me. But yeah, I could see how it could bug people. What do you think? Did he ever say in an interview? I mean, you guys sent him questions.
Just artistic.
What's up with them bars, Mikami?
Yeah.
Never said anything?
Just artistic choice.
Definitely lots of art going on. Definitely lots of artistic choices, creepy stuff. And it's so rad that it's Halloween. Yeah. And we got this game, and it turned out to be a pretty darn good game. So thank you for surviving it and reviewing it and chatting about it more.
Thank you for having me review it.